views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hola everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chari Executive Suite, still in holiday spirit. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll get some tips on boosting our immune system amid a pandemic when we speak to Registered Dietitian and Director from SBH Center for Culinary Medicine and Teaching Kitchen, Emily Schlag. After that, we'll learn about the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation and their efforts to help restaurant workers affected by the new regulations. And then we'll speak to the co-producers and co-writers, actors Javier Gomez and Luciana Faulhaber about the new short film, Homeless, which sheds light on the homelessness crisis in America. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on pop soul singer-songwriter, powerhouse vocalist Allison Cadena, performing a melody from her singles at the end of the show. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way, because now we are officially open. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, you can always find me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So many people over the course of the pandemic have gained the quarantine 15, or as I like to call it, the Rona 15. Yeah. So now more than ever, we're all looking to consume a healthier diet for 2021, consciously eating certain foods to boost our immune system, preparing our bodies to fight off any viruses. And our first guest is a chef and registered dietitian and the director of SBH Center for Culinary Medicine and Teaching Kitchen, joining us to give us some nutritional health tips. We welcome Emily Schlag. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here at the top of the new year prior to this spike in progress, as the news keeps suggesting, right? And I'm saying that because we do have the means to act from a preventative measure, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the coronavirus, there's a lot that we can do to keep ourselves from getting it. Number one is always going to be, washing our hands. That's not a nutrition tip, but, I think that is the number one tip that we can give, and just, helpful hygiene and keeping safe. But we can also keep our immune system running as it should as well. So,
well, in running as it should, right? It's really about incorporating new habits into our daily practices, and without going too into detail about the virus, and I think we've heard so many variations of what kind of symptoms people get, and or how long they linger, and or if somebody has pre-existing conditions. But there are certain like fruits and herbs and items that you can just kind of mix into your meals that or assist in boosting the immune system. So what would you suggest people, let's say, begin their day with?
Yeah, so I think it's important to remember that when we're thinking of our immune system, it's just that it's a really complex system. And so we want to make sure that it's running as it should. And so the idea of like boosting our immune system, I think sometimes can be a little bit misleading, because sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to drink a glass of orange juice and I'm going to like supercharge my immune system. And that's not really how it works. But we can do things to make sure that our immune system is really running as it should, and we can kind of give it a leg up and make sure that, you know, nothing's going wrong. So when it comes to keeping our immune system healthy, it's all about making sure that we're not deficient in any vitamins or minerals that are really important for our immune system. And that really comes from eating a well-balanced diet. But, you know, just saying well-balanced diet, that doesn't really tell you what to eat. So there's a few nutrients that we do want to look out for when we're planning our meals. So the first one's going to be vitamin A. Vitamin A is pretty important for our immune system. It's important for our tissues, so our skin, our lungs, our stomach, our respiratory system, and we want to make sure we're not deficient in that. So we can get vitamin A from a lot of different foods. So you have a lot of options out there. Number one is going to be our red, orange, and yellow vegetables. And the fruits as well. So that could be our tomatoes or our bell peppers or things like carrots and sweet potatoes. Those are all going to be a really good source of that vitamin A for us. So it doesn't just have to be like one specific thing we can eat. We have options out there.
That's wonderful. So like, do you recommend that it be eaten in raw form versus cooked? Like how much of the vitamin is lost in cooking these vegetables?
So vitamin A is going to be pretty stable when we cook it. So we can cook those vegetables. We're still going to get vitamin A from it. And we can get vitamin A from animal sources as well. So those we do, you know, want to cook. So we can get vitamin A from beef, chicken, and pork, especially organ meats. So if you're a liver lover, now is your time. You can get a lot of vitamin A from that. And those we do definitely want to cook and make sure we're consuming at a safe temperature.
And so I know vitamin C is also an important factor, which you mentioned, you kind of glimpsed through it, but I guess you're leading up to it. And so I know from my perspective, it's vitamin C, you can get it in oranges. I think everybody knows that. And is in lemons as well, right? Because and grapefruits because of the alkalinity, right?
Yeah, so all of our citrus fruits are going to be a great source of vitamin C. So you said oranges and grapefruits and lemons. We can get it from limes as well. So all of those citrus fruits are a great option, but we can get them from a lot of other foods as well. Vitamin C is actually pretty easy to get, especially if you love fruit. If you like fruit, you're going to get vitamin C from it, even if it's not a citrus fruit. So we can get it in strawberries, mango, or even things like guava are going to be a good source of vitamin C. And the great thing is that some of those fruits are also a great source of vitamin A. So you can get, you know, 2-in-1 with those things like the strawberries and the mango.
And so before we move on to the next vitamin, I just want to just to be clear, because again, you know, I think we're all struggling with the additional 15 pounds, myself included. And I understand that the citrus fruits also assist the weight loss. Is that a myth or is that true?
So that's going to be more of a myth. I mean, when it comes to weight loss, the thing that's going to cause weight loss is that if you're taking in fewer calories than you're eating. That's really the basics of it. But we can keep in mind that by adding things that are really great for us, like fruits and vegetables, they tend to be lower in calories, but they take up a lot of space. So we can bulk up our meals with those fruits and vegetables, be really full and satisfied, but we may still end up eating fewer calories than we were before without feeling really hungry. So it's not just citrus fruits, it's really everything, all those great fruits and vegetables combined.
Right. So then now we're talking about the sugars, right? So let's talk about the sugar intake, because now if we bulk up in fruits, now we have to concern ourselves with the sugar. I know everything is in moderation. However, I have a registered dietitian here, so inquiring minds want to know how to balance that out.
Yeah, so I mean, I love fruit. I think that fruit is often painted as the enemy, and that honestly makes me sad because we get so many great benefits from fruit. I just mentioned some of the vitamins that we can get from it. That's really great for our immune system, so we don't want to deprive our bodies of that. And yes, fruit does have naturally occurring sugar in it, but so do other foods as well. Dairy food has naturally occurring sugar. And so we just need to keep in mind that, we're getting other great nutrients from the fruit, including things like fiber. So when we consume fiber from the fruit alongside the sugar with it, that actually slows down how quickly our bodies absorb the sugar. So especially for people that may have diabetes or be at risk for diabetes, having a few servings of fruit here and there, in moderation isn't going to be the worst thing, because we have that fiber helping us along and we're getting the other great benefits from it. So, you don't want to go overboard with it. Don't eat like a gallon bucket full of orange slices. But if you want to have an orange with breakfast and maybe an apple later on during the day, I'm fine with that.
Got it. So I don't know if we have time for another one, but if we do, it has to be really short. But I'm hoping it's in the category of vitamin D.
It is.
It is? Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm right there. Because that's the issue here with the COVID-19 and the vitamin D deficiency. So yes, before we go.
Yes, so they are still doing research on the link between vitamin D and outcomes in people that already have COVID-19. So the research is still new, but we do know that if you are deficient in vitamin D, your immune system is not going to work as well. So we do know that. And we do know that especially if you're deficient in vitamin D, you're at a greater risk for respiratory illnesses, which COVID-19 is. We have those respiratory symptoms. So it's important to make sure you have enough vitamin D. Now, I normally recommend getting all of your vitamins and minerals from food, but vitamin D is one of those few that, take a supplement. We're in New York or, wherever you are, it's winter time. We're not getting enough sunlight to make our own vitamin D. And some people struggle to eat enough vitamin D. So this is a great time to really take a supplement just to cover your bases and make sure you're getting enough. But if you want to get vitamin D from food, our dairy foods are going to be a good option, but we can also get it from fatty fish like tuna and salmon and mackerel, which have a whole host of other great benefits as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Registered Dietitian Emily Schlag, and she's also the director of SBH Center for Culinary Medicine and Teaching Kitchen. Those were wonderful tips. And for you guys, if you're interested in more nutritional health tips, you can visit sbhteachingkitchen.org. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll learn about an organization helping restaurant workers during this pandemic. Don't go anywhere.
Demanding rights and economic justice.
Since the pandemic began, more than 500 small businesses across the 5 boroughs have been forced to close. Bronx businesses are particularly vulnerable because of the high unemployment rate already in the Bronx.
The Bronx is, as I said, it's a forgotten borough. Where's our community leaders? Where are they?
Darlene Jackson, city council candidate for District 18, says that small businesses are asking the city to pass the Small Business Job Survival Act, which is a bill that would make it easier for small businesses in New York City to negotiate the terms of their commercial leases, ultimately providing financial relief during the pandemic when foot traffic in businesses isn't as reliable.
You don't need the federal government to get involved. The city needs to just pass this bill. Pass it at the next stated meeting. And you think about it, it's black and brown people. It's immigrant people, people of color, who's being disenfranchised and marginalized.
Businesses like Young's Beauty Supply here in the Bronx are asking for financial help from the city just to make it through the months ahead.
To make sure I'm paying my rents every single month.
Sheikh, owner of Young African Beauty Supplies, says that keeping a steady income since the pandemic has been tough. He says paying his employees, let alone paying the high rent for the commercial space, has been nearly impossible.
As for me, I'm trying to maintain I'm not expecting nothing special, actually, definitely. But I still lay off some of those employees in order to be able to maintain my business, you know?
The Small Business Jobs Survival Act has three main components, which are a minimum 10-year lease with the right to renewal so they can better plan for the future of their business, equal negotiation terms when it comes to time to renew their lease with recourse to binding arbitration by a third party if fair terms cannot be found, and restrictions to prevent landlords from passing their property taxes to small business owners. Councilmember Yadanis Rodriguez held a hearing on this bill in 2018. However, it never came to a vote. Currently, it's still unclear if the bill will be voted on. Reporting for BronxNet, Darissa White.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So restaurants in New York City have been closed for indoor dining for several weeks now, and it's left many in the hospitality business without jobs. And so our next guest is part of the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, an advocacy and action nonprofit by and for restaurant workers that helps aid all levels in the industry. And joining us to tell us more about the organization and their COVID-19 emergency relief funds, please welcome Restaurant Workers Community Foundation co-founder and board president, John DeBerry. Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Love that painting behind you.
Thanks. I did it in second grade, actually, but that's another story. It's
That's
the World Trade
fast.
Center. Yeah.
I thought so. It
Yeah.
looks it. Yeah, I definitely got that. So you're definitely feeling representing New York, even
Yeah,
at such
exactly.
a young age, right? Hence bringing us into your business and or your founding organization. Let's talk a little bit about the organization and how it truly serves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got together with a group of industry professionals, restaurant industry professionals, as well as my husband, who's a philanthropic advisor, about 4 years ago, and started this idea for an organization that uses the community foundation model to help to create a sense of community within restaurant workers across the country. And a community foundation is usually something that people apply to a particular population, whether it's a geography, women, LGBT, but we're using it to apply to a labor model. And that means that we're able to raise money from the community to find resources where people are willing to give them and then redistribute them to people who need the help. And we got off to a pretty good, modest start for the first few years. And then when the COVID crisis was really crashing over us in March of last year, it became clear we needed to do something that was dedicated to relief efforts. So we established a COVID-19 relief fund and began to raise money for that. And then using that fund, it goes to direct financial assistance for restaurant workers. It goes to grants to other nonprofits that are doing relief work. And we're also establishing a zero interest loan program for small businesses to support them during this time. So we sort of expanded our goals last year to include COVID relief.
So that's wonderful. And just so that we can translate this to anyone who is in need of assistance, right? Because, and I say this only because based on, let's say, the assistance that the government is offering, there's a lot of paperwork that's required, and it can be a little intimidating. And what I really appreciated about learning about your organization is how it is its own community, and the funds are being raised by restaurant owners themselves, and it's kind of being distributed amongst each other based on each other's needs, right? And let's talk about the different levels in which these grants are being offered and or assistance programs.
Yeah, so the way that we operate is we kind of are using our existing networks, our connections to people, our friends and family, media to get the word out and to raise money for these causes. Also, as I'm a former bartender, a lot of our fellow board members are working in the beverage industry, and there's a tremendous amount of support from wine spirits companies as well, who are able to really put a lot of resources behind a fund. And then what we do is that we have been spending the better part of last year researching organizations to give money to that are directly assisting restaurant workers. So we're an all volunteer organization. I have I was a bartender. I'm not a, I don't have a background in running a nonprofit. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and set up our own systems that may not be working as well as someone who's been doing it professionally for many years prior to this, we were just helping them get more resources. So one of our largest grantees is the Southern Smoke Foundation, and their organization in Houston that's been doing crisis relief grants to individuals for over 5 years now. And so what they do is they take the applications, they work with each person to determine what they need to get back on their feet. And there is some paperwork involved. They try to have it be as minimal as possible. But the idea is to really help people get through some very, very serious situations, and not just give them a couple $100 and tell them good luck. It's more about working with the person and really figuring out what they need to get back on their feet on a permanent basis.
Right. And so of course, there's always paperwork included and or required. However, the reason I even brought it up with regards to the different levels, and thank you for sharing that, the spirits industry is part of it as well, right? And bartenders and from what I read, there's porters and waiters, and it's not just restaurant owners and or restaurant managers. It's like every single aspect of the hospitality business. Yeah,
definitely. It's sort of part of our philosophy that the problems that you see in the restaurant industry in terms of like poor quality of life and low wages, there's kind of bad actors, but a lot of it just has to do with communication and lack of knowledge. So it's really about bringing everyone together to kind of understand the needs and different priorities. And so, because I think everyone at the end of the day wants the same thing. They want a happy, healthy industry. They want to provide a great experience to their guests. It's just a matter of not necessarily knowing the right way to do it or disagreeing on the right way to do that. Yeah.
Right. And I also noticed that you're completely all inclusive, right? So you've got all aspects of and all walks of life that are welcomed. And I wanted to make sure that we shared that on air because you also offer programs that really fall in the category of advocacy with regards to inequities and, LGBTQ community and gender neutrality and all of that. So for anyone who's listening, do you want to share a little bit more on that aspect of what your community or foundation offers?
So what we see, one of the things that spurred this organization to exist was that the food system and the restaurant industry is kind of a microcosm of the problems that we face. Everything social justice that we face right now is sort of magnified in the restaurant industry and in the food system at large. So by directing funds towards organizations that are doing work to advance racial equity, to advance gender equality, to help to support immigrant communities, as well as people who are facing addiction or mental illness, by addressing those through the restaurant industry, it can have a really big impact on society as a whole.
I love it because now we're talking about the consciousness of the individuals. Yeah. And before we go, let's talk a little bit about the pineapple being your logo. It's just a lovely note to close on.
Yeah. So the pineapple has been sort of a traditional emblem of hospitality, and there's the idea that you put a pineapple in your window and it signals that you're welcoming to guests. And so when we were designing a logo, we thought a pineapple would be a really good sort of visual thing that expresses the level of kind of like a non-denominational symbol of hospitality. Because if you did a chef's knife, then you're talking about chefs, and if you did a cocktail shaker, then it was bartender. So this just sort of represents all-inclusive meaning of hospitality, so that everyone feels welcome.
And that's exactly what we just discussed. And thank you for bringing it here to our viewers on Open. And once again, John DeBarry of the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation. And you guys, if you're interested in becoming part of the community and or contributing to the community, you can go to our WCF COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund by visiting restaurantworkerscf.org. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a film shedding light on homelessness. Don't go anywhere.
New Yorkers have mastered existing in crowded places and walking fast. Now is the time to master social distancing. Social distancing means creating more personal space between yourself and others, at least 6 feet. Creating more physical distance protects yourself and other New Yorkers from the spread of coronavirus. To do your part, stay home. Stay connected through calls, texts, and video chats. If you have to go out for essentials like food and medicine, avoid crowds and put space between yourself and other people standing in line. If you go outside, just remember to keep 6 feet of space between yourself and others. This is not just about you. It's also about protecting the most vulnerable and preserving the health of essential workers who are on the front lines. If you're feeling overwhelmed, connect with counselors at NYC Well. Text COVID to 692-692 for real-time updates or visit nyc.gov/coronavirus.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Homelessness has always been a crisis in America, but now, due to the pandemic, it's become an even bigger crisis. And in addition to this crisis, homeless individuals have become more vulnerable and more susceptible to COVID-19 being out in the streets and or in overcrowded shelters. Our next guest decided to create a short film raising awareness on the homelessness issue in America. Let's take a sneak peek at Homeless.
Didn't I see you last week sleeping on the street?
Yeah, been looking for work for a while, but haven't had any luck.
You remind me of my son. I need help with things around here.
What do I have to do?
Hola, Julio. ¿Cómo estás? You look familiar.
Remember? It's the guy I gave the $1 to.
Are you a nurse?
I go to school.
Nice. I wish I could go back to school.
It's never too late. I know what you're going through. I was homeless once too.
I never thought I would end up like this.
I go to the support group. They really helped me get me back on my feet. Let's meet here tomorrow. We can walk over together.
Joining us to tell us more about creating the film Homeless, please welcome co-producers, co-writers, and actors, Luciana, Faulhaber, and Javier Gomez. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Rhina. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for being here. Nice to meet you, Luciana. Well done. Brava. Bravo. A los dos.
Thank you.
Gracias.
What a touching film. I know we just saw a little trailer of it, but I trust that everyone is going to really want to inquire further. Javier, let's just open up with you. I'm sure most people are used to seeing you as the host of Diálogo Abierto here on BronxNet. And bueno, this role that you played, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your relationship to Luciana. What I did mention is Luciana is also the director of the film, but let's talk about the topic itself, why you guys chose this topic.
Well, we have a preoccupation that with current economics, the face of homelessness is rapidly changing throughout America. And that is a story that isn't being talked about at all. When we thought about a homeless person, we used to think about someone with addiction problems and mental disease. And that is still the case, but in current society and economics, that is not always the case. You have completely functional individuals, even with jobs, or who happen to be down on their luck or going through an episode like a divorce, a disease, something that ruins them and bring them off track, and they are homeless. And you see them, and some of them carry their book bags and they go to work, and then at the end of the day, they have nowhere to go. They're calling friends, or they're going into a shelter, or even, and I know, hopping into a car and driving miles into the suburbs just so they can have a peaceful night and a safe night. So we got together I know of an anecdote of a friend in which he spotted a homeless man who moved him, and he decided to help this young man who was down on his luck bring his life back together. We decided to combine that real life story with a real life murder case that was reported in Chinatown. So we could show the dangers of homelessness and how do homelessness begin, and how once you start the wheel of homelessness, it is urgent that you get out of it and it requires immediate attention. We decided to get together, put up this team to get the film. Luciana and I wrote it. And then we, once we did it, we decided to donate it to a not-for-profit organization that is using it as awareness.
And the other part to this story is what I noticed, and Luciana, perhaps you can answer this question with regards to the majority of the characters being Latino. I mean, it's English speaking, but I found that also a fascinating component to the storytelling, that every single person in the film is primarily Latino.
Yeah,
was that on purpose?
Absolutely on purpose. You know, as Latinos, we feel consistently underrepresented. So Javier and I made a conscious choice that this would be a story that would live in a primarily Latino neighborhood by primarily Latino people. You know, the Latino population that are on the streets, about 18%. It is definitely a smaller group. Latinos tend to have families who are more embracing and supportive, and we really try to help each other. So that keeps us from the streets, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And the key factor here is that this story could have happened to anyone of any color, of any ethnicity, of any cultural background. All you had to do is just swap the characters and the story remains the same. When we chose the real life stories of these people to be represented in this movie, we didn't think about whether or not what race or ethnicity they belong to. We just wanted to tell stories that were about the episodically homeless, that to break this perception that the homeless have to be crazy or sick or a drug addict to be on the streets. I've been volunteering with the homeless in the US for over 10 years now, and I've met whole families. You know, the women population of homelessness in Los Angeles raised 30% alone in the last year. And, you know, with the women come the children, so it becomes a family issue. So through this work that I've been doing here, Javier and I had this story on the back burner for a few years, and I was incredibly touched by the work that we're doing, and it felt so small. And that's when we decided to look at the story that we were developing and say, okay, I think this is the right time to tell the story. And we got to shoot the film in New York last year in January, just before the pandemic happened. So if you think about cosmic alignment, we felt like this now is a bigger problem, as at least in Los Angeles and New York, the moratorium is supposed to expire on February 1st. People still don't have jobs. So we're about to witness a big change in the face of American politics as well as economics. And we're heavily concerned about what that's gonna mean for families in general.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you know, Javier, just because, again, most people are used to seeing you on air as a host, and for me, it was really moving to just see you captivate the essence of this individual on such a humanizing level, right? Because and realistic too, I might add. I was there with you, and I felt for the character. I mean, forgive me, everyone, but I saw the actual short film, so perhaps that's encouragement for you to see it, because it's a real story.
People can see the film for free at Invisible People's YouTube channel. A lot of people are not aware that I have always had parallel and dual careers as a journalist, but also as an actor producer. So it's been a revelation for a lot of people in this case. Part of the issue with homelessness, and this is the reason why Mark Horvath created the organization that accepted the donation of the movie, is that for society to deal effectively with homelessness, they have to make homelessness stories visible. So we approached the subject very seriously, very respectfully, and we wanted to make sure that we gave a real take on homelessness, almost like a journalistic approach to homelessness as well.
Yeah.
And we were very careful not to glamorize the movie, not to romanticize about homelessness, and make a clear, bold statements that not all homeless stories ends with the homeless person getting a brand new home, getting rescued, and having a brand new home in Westchester County, as we have seen in other movies.
Right. And so while it isn't a documentary, in case anyone misinterprets what you just said and taking the journalistic approach, it's like it's a story that you're familiar with, especially if you live in New York. And that's all I'm going to give away. But, you know, I understand you both have worked together previously prior to this. So what brought you together on this project?
He made an indecent proposal over dinner one night saying, produce this play with me. And I was like, no, I'm not a producer. He's like, no, I know you are. And long and behold, 10 years later, we're still a team. We're still working together. We have multiple projects, multiple things happening at this moment. But, you know, I like to think of our work as children, and they kind of reveal themselves to you when it's the right time to really act on them. So this homeless project, we've had it for a few years, and it just happened that we had read about something on the New York Times about a homeless man that did get, you know, passed away, and how people just walked past his body for days without realizing that he wasn't alive. And that really hit us hard. And we thought, okay, this is a time to revisit this story that we've been holding on for a while. And so the way that we work with our projects is like children. You know, one of them speaks up and screams at you, and you said, okay, this is the time for this one to come to life. And that's how it's been our approach. Javier and I are still a team. We still work together in, again, multiple projects, and hopefully for many more years to come.
Oh my gosh, that's so lovely. So well said. And thank you both for bringing it here to our viewers, the mama and the papa of the short film, Homeless. And it's so relevant, and most importantly, I just want to share with our viewers, it's really about opening up our social consciousness, and we're all in this together at the end of the day. So once again, to watch Homeless, the short film, you can visit Invisible on YouTube, and you can also donate to them and to the homelessness by going to invisiblepeople.tv/donate. All right, don't go anywhere. Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
Uncle Steve Cohen certainly knows how to make an entrance. The new Mets ownership was putting together a solid offseason already, and then dropped this bomb on the Big Apple this past week. Francisco Lindor, one of baseball's best all-around players, is New York City bound. And unlike in the past, where a talent like his seemed destined for the Bronx, the four-time All-Star shortstop is heading to Queens and the Amazons. He gets dealt to the Mets from Cleveland, along with standout pitcher Carlos Carrasco. Lindor is beyond excited to join an organization that appears to be trending on the up and up.
It makes me very excited. I'm excited to be part of this organization, and I can't wait to be part of the great thing they have going on in the clubhouse. I just want to be a little piece of the puzzle, and hopefully we achieve the ultimate goal, which is winning. I mean, I'm gonna bring Francisco Lindor, which is me. I'm gonna do me on a daily basis. Hopefully that's good enough for my teammates and the fans. And I always found because I'm blessed to have health, to have my family surround me. I have a great group of people around me that help me keep my peace and to play the greatest game out there. Why not? Why not smile? I mean, I'm living my dream. I'm living the life I always wanted. So I don't see why I wouldn't smile.
Mets president Sandy Alderson says the deal did not come cheaply, pointing out the departure of longtime shortstop Ahmed Rosario as the centerpiece of the package going back to the Indians.
Anytime a player brings an extra dimension in terms of personality, in terms of how they present themselves, how the fans will react to that player. I think that all has to be taken into account. And he's obviously done lots of things over his young life, and we expect that he'll continue to do them in New York.
New general manager Jared Porter says the club is still looking to improve.
We've added some very good players this offseason. We added 2 today. We added James McCann. I think, continuing to press on the depth is very important. It's a long season, as we all know. And I also think, putting our players in a position to play at their ceilings or exceed their ceilings is really important too. And adding a dynamic, well-rounded player like Francisco Lindor, who helps as a defender, as a hitter, as a base runner, it really helps those things. It makes his teammates better. Adding a catcher like James McCann, who impacts every pitch that's thrown between the catcher and the pitcher, is a significant impact.
Meantime, Carrasco might be overlooked in the deal, but he shouldn't be. He was some pitcher in Cleveland. When healthy, he could easily slot in behind Jacob deGrom as the #2 starter on this much-improved club, at least on paper.
The potential is making to the playoff into the World Series too. They have a really good team. We have a really good team. Adding myself, Lindor is going to be really, really good, really nice. We have really good players, starting pitcher, relievers. I think we're going to be fine. So that's the whole point, just making to the playoff in the World Series too. We got a great team. I can't wait to get there with my family, start getting back to the community. I think it's something really important. For us, it's really important because we know there's a lot of people out there that need help. And it's something that I love to do for a long time ago. Everything's coming from my daughter when she was like 4 years old. She told me something really, really beautiful, and that's the point we start to doing everything. And thanks to my wife, she's been doing everything too, from day one to now. Even when the season starts, she's the one to do everything, just getting back to the community. So when I have some off day, so I enjoy her to do everything. And I can't wait to go to New York and start doing a good relationship with the community.
Citi Field seems to be in a giving mood these days, and not just on the baseball diamond, but also in the game of life. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says the Mets ballpark will become a 24/7 mega COVID-19 vaccination site. It will have the capacity to administer 5,000 to 7,000 vaccines a day and will open the week of January 25th. The Mets have been a godsend this week. And for football fans here in New York, those disappointed that the Giants and Jets aren't part of the playoff picture, they have to be at least somewhat intrigued and rooting for our neighbors to the north. The Buffalo Bills keep the machine moving in the playoffs. They finished the season 13-3 and can now add a playoff win to an impressive resume this year. The Bills edged the Indianapolis Colts 27-24 in the opening round and will now face the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round on Saturday night. That game kicks at 8:15 p.m. Fun fact here, the Ravens are named after famed American writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe. In addition to Baltimore, Poe once called the Bronx home. His famous poem, The Raven, was penned right before he came to live in the BX. Like the Ravens, love Poe, but I'm rooting for the Bills. I'm also rooting for the Jets to hire Doug Peterson out as Philadelphia Eagles head coach. The Super Bowl champ could be bringing his ring to Gang Green. Jets GM Joe Douglas worked with Peterson in Philly. Blockbuster trade alert. The Nets have reeled in 3-time scoring champ James Harden from Houston. A haul of a trade for all involved. The mega deal reunites Harden with KD. At full strength, the Nets would now feature the three-headed monster of Durant, Irving, and Harden. As the NBA is reviewing videos circulating on social media of a maskless Kyrie Irving at what appears to be a family birthday party, there is no belief the Brooklyn Nets guard will return to the team's lineup anytime soon. Irving's absence has been attributed to personal reasons. The Knicks are in Cleveland tonight and Boston on Sunday. The Nets welcome Orlando Saturday to Brooklyn. On the college hardwood, Florida men's basketball will host UMass Sunday. The women's program will be in Dayton on Saturday. UConn men's and women's basketball is off to a terrific start. Both are nationally ranked. For the first time since 2016, the men's program is back in the Associated Press Top 25. And speaking of reaching the zenith of college sports, we close out the headlines with our national champions of the college football gridiron. Number 1, Alabama wins again, this time taking down number 3, Ohio State, 52-24 in a laugher. Head coach Nick Saban makes history with his 7th national title at Bama. He sits alone in the record books after passing legendary coach Bear Bryant. Newest Heisman winner Devontae Smith keyed the victory. He was named Offensive MVP in a record night for himself. 12 catches for the wide receiver, 3 scores, 2. Congrats to Smith, Saban, and Bama. We hit the C-list for a look into the future, courtesy of our friends at IndyCar. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway ranks right up there on my list of all-time favorite places in sport, right next to Yankee Stadium, honestly. Aside from the racing, the Brickyard is a place where innovation becomes reality. It was originally constructed as a site for technology and testing development. The Wright brothers even set an aircraft altitude record at the facility way back in 1910. That was even before the Indy 500 was a thing. This past week, the Speedway provided a glimpse into the future, kind of like Back to the Future. Check this. A new race is scheduled for October 2021 featuring cars without drivers, at least without a human sitting in the cockpit of the race car. And the best part, like us here at BronxNet, it's not only professional, but it's providing opportunities for youth. The inaugural Indy Autonomous Challenge will offer $1.5 million in prizes to teams from colleges and universities around the world racing cars using student-created software that enables the autonomous driving. Nearly 40 colleges and universities from 14 states and 11 nations are taking part in the project. Also equally of note, the possibility of what it means long-term for the cars and our safety in the future. Penske Entertainment President Mark Miles says, if we can go 240 miles per hour and keep cars from colliding on the track, surely we can make highways safer. Self-driving cars are the wave of the future, and racing and IMS are once again at the forefront of bringing us closer to better days. I do so hope we'll still get to man the wheel sometimes, but the idea of a society where driver fatalities are a thing of the past, especially when alcohol is involved, surely sounds like something we would all sign up for. That's your look at sports. I'm Bobby C.
Welcome back. Our last guest is a pop soul singer-songwriter from Queens, and her musical career accidentally fell into her lap and led her to training alongside Grammy nominees and winners, platinum-selling artists, and Broadway stars. And in 2018, she debuted on Broadway as part of the cast of Rocktopia at the Broadway Theater, and now she's working on her own music. Joining us to share more, we welcome Alyson Cadena. Hello and welcome.
Hi, hello everyone.
So it's interesting to be introduced as somebody who just accidentally stumbled upon her talent. Please do share the details behind your Groupon experience. I found that story so fascinating.
Yeah, everyone always finds it so strange, but you know, I've always loved singing. I did it always for fun as a kid, but I was extremely shy. So I never thought of it as a career. Like no one outside of my parents had ever really heard me sing until like late, like college years. And I was already finished college. I was working, and my father bought me a Groupon for vocal lessons, for a month of vocal lessons. And he knew what he was doing. I thought I was gonna just like go for a month, and then maybe next month I'll take Zumba, maybe next month I'll take sword fighting. You know how Groupon is, you try different things.
Right.
And basically I got there, the coach for that class is a renowned vocal coach who's worked with tons of incredible artists, from Katy Perry to Mark Anthony to La India, for those of you who know Spanish music. And he basically never let me leave. So he's one of the people who really pushed me to realize, like, you know, this isn't just a hobby. This is something that you can like really pursue professionally.
And the rest is history. How many years later?
That happened 7 years ago. It took me a while, even in that class, to realize what that meant as a career, or what, you know, beyond just like karaoke singing. And so I've been creating my own music for 3 going on 4 years now.
3 going on 4 years, and that's of course after experiencing Broadway and all that lovely, you know, that other aspect of utilizing that skill. And now that we are in this, you know, pandemic and dealing with these circumstances, do you find that it's drawn you to really dive into your own self-creations? As far as like writing and developing, and like at what level are you at when it comes to your music? I mean, you know, you're creating your own music. So when you say that, are you referencing writing the songs or producing the actual soundtracks? Are you working with engineers? Like, what is that process for you?
To be honest, it happened very slowly. My first single that came out, I contributed to the writing, but someone else really took the lead in terms of producing it and wrote most of the lyrics. And that made me realize, like, someone else can't tell your story as well as you can. So as much as I love that single, there was like an element missing of like, it's not 100% true to how I felt in that moment. And so I got more involved to like writing my own lyrics, but having a collaborator, to now I'll actually like sit with the producers and help create it. You know, obviously they are, you know, they're the experts. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I get to kind of guide, you know, do we want a bridge in here? Do we want it softer in certain parts? And so I'm very involved, and thankfully have a lot of people that I work with regularly that are just like, they understand what I like and what my process is. But in terms of the pandemic, at first it kind of slowed me down, because being an artist, when you go into the studio, I mean, first of all, you're sharing a mic, but besides that, it's just like very tight spaces. And there was like a little bit of fear in terms of like, what can I actually accomplish during this time? But I think it helped because I had to lean more on my own strengths. I had to be a lot more purposeful in what I was doing. I couldn't kind of just go to the studio and like, you know, fool around for a couple of hours and maybe something gets done. Like these last 2 singles that I put out, they were done during the pandemic, because I was able to like finish the lyrics on my own and go in there and really have a purpose. And you know, it wasn't a bunch of like friends hanging out at the studio. Like we had to have like bare minimum, just me, the engineer, and 1 collaborator. So it actually became really productive. And in terms of shows where I couldn't do like in-person shows, this is actually better for me, because the kind of music that I do is very intimate. I like to tell stories. And so now being on Zoom, you know, I don't have to hype up a crowd. I can like really just sit here and say, you know, this song is about this part of my life, and share that story a little more casually, a little more conversationally than I get to in a live performance.
That's lovely. It's really refreshing to hear how you've just adapted to our current circumstances, right? Because I know a lot of musicians and a lot of artists are going through some hardships right now. But I find that this particular predicament that we've all been placed in, and I identify as an artist, is that now's the time to create, and now's the time to really find your niche. And I want to say, I'm really excited that we're going to get a taste of both your singles on the other side, right? After we take this break. But before we go, I just wanted to share with everyone that the version that we're going to be seeing is specifically done for this show. It's just a rendition for this particular show, right?
Right. Is it actually our first time that we'll be doing both of these songs acoustically? So very excited for that. Exclusive.
Woo! Exclusive. You heard it from the singer herself, the singer-songwriter, Alyson Cadena. You guys, you got to take a quick break. But when we return, Alyson, I said Alyson, right? Alyson Cadena, she's going to perform for us, so you don't want to go anywhere. Like she said, it's an exclusive. Hey everyone, welcome back. Here now to perform a melody from her new singles, Red Flags and Gravity. Please welcome Allison Cadena.
I know it won't be long before this goes wrong. Feelings are facts, it's true, but they bring me back to you. We're not on the same page, we're making a mistake. For some reason I can't wait. We have the worst timing. Whenever I'm vulnerable, you come and find me. Then I'm back running circles again with you right behind me, knowing that there's a love. We'll play pretend anyway, as long as it lasts to the bottom of the glass. Red flags are waving and still I caved in because time wasn't meant to be wasted. I know it's wrong, but I'm fading and it feels amazing when you hold me so close. I can taste it, so close I can taste it. So close I can taste it. Something always brings me back to you. It never takes too long. No matter what I say or do, I still feel you here till the moment I'm gone. El tiempo siempre me regresa aquí, por más lejos que esté. Aún me siento encadenada a ti, atada al recuerdo, te busco otra vez. Suéltame, libérame, no puedo luchar otro momento contra tu gravedad. Existiré y quebraré como siempre. Regreso a donde yo debo estar, junto a ti, enredada en ti. La vida se complica, me deja tan perdida, tan pronto el corazón grita por ti. Lo único que quiero es ahogarme en tus besos y no me queda más que rendirme a ti. Oh, necesito de ti. Oh, oh, oh. Suéltame, libérame. No puedo luchar otro momento contra tu gravedad. Resistiré y quebraré como siempre. Regreso a donde yo debo estar, junto a ti, enredada en ti.
So that was the exclusive version for us here in our Open Artist Spotlight, but the original version of Gravity, it has bachata music attached to it. So anywho, you can find Allison's music on all musical platforms, and for more on Allison, visit her on Instagram at Ali Chains. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the Recablecast tonight and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity,